How far would an F1 car go at the Indy 500? With vehicles hitting speeds of over 230 mph and racing for 200 laps side by side, the Indianapolis 500 is one of the most prestigious races in the world. But what if you place Formula 1 on the grid? Is it possible for you to go any faster? To find out, keep watching this video. There are nevertheless some significant variances. IndyCar is a spec series, which means that all of the vehicles use the same Dallara chassis, have the same aero package for each track, and can choose between two engines, Honda or Chevrolet, similar to Corvette. Formula 1, on the other hand, is a constructed competition in which teams build their vehicles with only a few components shared between them. For example, Williams uses Mercedes engines but runs on Ferrari components like the steering wheel. IndyCar runs the series this way to save money for the teams and to encourage closer racing, which means there are very few opportunities to spend lots of money and gain an advantage over other teams. Whereas the Formula 1 team spends hundreds of millions on wind tunnel testing and safety to develop their error packages, which are sometimes upgraded for each race. All Indy cars must use the identical body floor and wind packages as the rest of the grid. One more notable difference between Indy cars and other race cars is that IndyCar run on both ovals and road circuits. And considering what we have just imagined, it should be clear that the aerodynamic and suspension setups have to be somewhat different to accommodate an Indy car. It offers three distinct aero packages as well as short, oval and road variants, each with its own set of wings, brake ducts and suspension setups. The engines are also somewhat different. IndyCar uses a 2.2-liter V6 with twin turbochargers that produce between 507 and 700 horsepower. The race organizers decide the maximum boost pressure for each race, which allows them to manage speeds and keep the racing close. Although Formula 1 uses a 1.6-liter engine with a single turbocharger. For many years, automakers have been engaged in a development race, investing hundreds of millions of dollars to produce the world's most fuel-efficient engines. This motor can produce over 1000 horsepower, with 160 of it being donated by the hybrid system. Also, with reference to aerodynamics, it applies here as well. For years, manufacturers have competed to produce the most efficient aero packages, fighting for every tenth of a second around the corners and maximizing speed down the straights by reducing drag, whereas IndyCar uses the same system for entire seasons, changing only when a new spec car is released. A Formula 1 vehicle would likely be faster at Indy, with more downforce, power and wider tires than the majority of road racing cars. We have the best we can do as far as a comparable reference, which is at the Circuit of the Americas, where IndyCar has already established a 1 minute 46 second lap time in 2019. In a very short time span, Formula 1 ran around 1 minute 32 seconds. Formula 1 has a 14-second gain on a circuit, thus this may not be much of an advantage. But what about an oval? Most people believe that ovals are quite difficult to construct correctly, although this is far from the truth. In order to get quickly down the straight, the vehicles need to have minimal drag and they must also have a high amount of downforce to help carry the speed into the corners. The Indy cars utilize their speedway configuration to reach this goal. It has a nearly flat rear wing which features a single element and almost no wing angle. It appears that with a single element and a streamlined end plate, the front wing follows a similar design concept. With this feature, it is possible for the speed to reach up to 240 mph on the straight track. That speed would be enough to demolish any F1 car. Even in the case of Monza spec F1 race cars, low downforce wings could, of course, be used instead of any little amount of downforce producing parts. However, there is one trick used in IndyCar that is now prohibited in Formula 1. It is called underfloor aero tunnels. These tunnels are utilized to install underfloor aero packages, which are meant to increase the acceleration of the car's air beneath the vehicle, resulting in decreased vehicle pressure and being pulled to the ground. It produces a large amount of downforce while generating little drag. Currently, Formula 1 regulations demand the underside of the track to be flat, which means that in order to maintain stability, there will have to be significant body downforce, which has been the case in the past as well. While Formula 1 hybrids can perform well on circuits that provide a lot of braking zones to be used for power recovery, they will not perform as well on circuits that provide less braking zones for this purpose. On an oval, though these opportunities are few and far between, alternatively, since they are the only cars on the track that are running, it would be simple to use pit land time to charge the battery as well as get the engine running. They might utilize this type of procedure when following another vehicle along the racetrack. Even if you may assume that everything goes according to plan, the car's potential output will only be about 850 horsepower for most of the race, not the whole 1000. In order to prosper purely by turning left, the car setup must be distinct. So IndyCar type race cars employ several unique set of features that Formula 1 type race vehicles lack. The camber of all four tires on an IndyCar is modified to lean the car's right-hand side more towards the driver. In this case, since the car is loaded in the corner, all four tires are trying to put as much grip on the ground as possible, and the entire vehicle is trying to turn to the left. The designers even adjusted the steering so that the driver doesn't have to handle as much and hence doesn't create as much tire scrapping while turning quickly. To prevent rollover, anti-roll bars are quite crucial. They can be set and adjusted while the driver is driving on the steering wheel, and they do so according to how much fuel is left in the tank. As the car uses up the remaining fuel, the overall balance of the vehicle shifts, causing the rear bar to be stiffer when the car is heavy and loosen up when the car is lighter. To put it another way, it works as follows. The system rotates the blades, which are designed to adjust the car's stiffness. The two axes of rotation align, resulting in an easily handled, well-controlled vehicle. Yet, beyond 90 degrees of rotation, the structure becomes very stiff, ensuring that the drivers have more precise control over the cars. The drivers may also want to alter the car's balance as it enters the turns. They use a weight jacket for this. The hydraulic round is positioned on the rear right suspension. When it is extended, it changes the cross weight of the car. That's how the weight of the car is distributed among the four tires. When the rear ram is extended, additional weight is placed on the front left tire. Depending on what the driver decides at that time in the race, this might make cars having more grip in the front or rear. F1 doesn't have any of these features, as you are probably aware, merely because they aren't required for circuit racing. The oval, where the cars are fairly symmetrical in setup, would also necessitate significantly longer gear ratios than F1 cars, which prefer shorter gear ratios for improved acceleration. However, F1 regulations state that gear ratios must remain constant throughout the season, but we'll overlook that for now. But in terms of straight line speed, the Formula 1 car does have the advantage, as they have approximately 150 horsepower more than the Indy car, and as long as they develop an aero package specifically for Indy, they could generate as much downforce as an Indy car with equivalent drag, but the ability to carry momentum through corners without sliding and scrubbing speed would be essential. The tires on the F1 car are 20% wider on the front and 10% broader on the back, giving it a theoretical grip advantage. However, there is one stick point that the setup in the cars is designed for ovals and is understandably very good at them. For an F1 car to fit in IndyCar, through the corner, the entire suspension system will have to be redesigned to adjust the left-hand camber and the fine-tuning required to compete on an oval. But this is F1. If there was a race, the Formula 1 teams would devote so much money and time that catching them would be impossible. It had been a challenge for the teams, but as we know, they are used to it. As a result, I believe Formula 1 is capable of accomplishing this goal. While the greater amount of power, more downforce, and similar drag would likely result in greater acceleration, I feel it wouldn't be significant because the cars would also be far quicker. Nevertheless, Indy cars are incredibly capable and very impressive to behold as 33 cars go at speeds above 230 miles per hour while making lap after lap around the track. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think F1 is capable enough to cross the highest lap time in Indy? Or do you think it still has room for a lot of improvements? Let us know your opinion down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching guys, and just before you go, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For more videos like this, turn on the post notification bell. Take care and I'll see you in the next video.